Let's now get started with the business of the day, beginning from the People's Democratic Party, which appears to be a bit unsure regarding how best to approach the forthcoming general election. Sometimes towards the end of this month, the party is expected to hold a special congress to nominate candidates for those polls. However, at the moment, PDP appears to be caught in a dilemma in between zoning its presidential ticket to maintain an already existing arrangement and throwing the process open for all comers. Well, to gain a better understanding of the issues, we are now being joined by Olisa Metuh, a lawyer, politician, and former National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party. Good morning, Mr. Metuh. You're welcome to the program.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good to have you indeed. Well,
thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome indeed. Well, let's get into it and let's talk PDP. Politics is in there, and our interest, first and foremost, will be to know your assessment of your party in terms of the readiness for the Congress that has come in to elect those that will represent you as candidates, and then your readiness as per the main elections in 2023. It's been about 7 years in opposition, which is something that PDP might not be totally used to after 16 years in power. Now, I would like you to put in context the fact that former presidents in the political party do play an important role in the preparations for their parties. But in your own case, it doesn't look like you have the advantage at all. Former President Obasanjo says he's no longer a member of your party. He tore the party card. Former President Yar'Adua, we lost him, unfortunately. We're just celebrating 12 years since his transition. And then we're hearing all of a sudden that the only one left, former President Goodluck Jonathan, might be finding his way into the ruling APC. If this is true, how do you think that this will affect your chances in preparing to take over power back in 2023?
Thank you. Like I said, thank you for having me this morning. First, let me have the privilege of making an opening. This morning when I woke up, I prayed that God give me the grace to convince people and inform Nigerians about the what happened, and at the end of the day, get them and exactly what we need. First, on the issue of PDP, the People's Democratic Party, not just a party, a movement. It lives in the minds of Nigerians because it's part of people. So it actually exists in the minds of most Nigerians, even the people in the alternate party. If you look at it, for the past 5-6 years, the PDP, the opposition to this ruling party has been the ordinary people, the Nigerians who have seen the difference, who have noticed the stuff, who have noticed insecurity, who have noticed the economic collapse and every other. And those are the PDP. So when you talk about how prepared is the PDP for this 2003 election, you'll be asking how prepared are Nigerians this 2003 election. The election is all about Nigerians prepared. Nigerians, what do they want? How do they want to come about it? It's not only about PDP. PDP represents the mind of Nigerians. Now, if you look at what is happening in the political space, it's all a question of strategy, tactics. People are going round and round and round. We have the issue of zoning. We have the issue of where the candidate is from. Today, this morning, we read that the Yoruba APC leaders said the next president must come from the Southwest. They have their own idea. They have their own reason. But for me, the presidency of Nigeria should be a discussion on experience, on acceptability, on the right temperament, on somebody who is acceptable across all divides, ethnic, religious, and social divides. Someone who will be a team player, someone who will engage the best hands to bring us back, at least to where we were as at 2015. That is what it should all be about. It's not necessarily where the person comes from. But if you have to talk about where the person comes from, equity demands that it should first go to the Southeast. If you have to talk about where the person comes from, you have to understand and acknowledge that the Southeast presents at least three of the best aspirants in PDP. We have it. I've been doing a lot of traveling in the last 2 weeks, in the last 1 week, in the last 3 weeks. And wherever I go, Nigerians are talking about P2B everywhere, P2B. Nigerians believe in P2B. Nigerians believe that P2B can handle and lead us to a better land and a better place. And you know, governance is not about your own capacity. It's about the belief of the people. The people need a symbol. A symbol. That's what we need. A symbol, and then people will make their sacrifices. If there is no symbol, there is absolutely no way people will want to make their sacrifices. And for now, P2B represents that symbol. But we all know that the delegate election is all about being strong for delegate election. Is not a general election. So today we're going to talk about the delegate election. What are the chances, or what is the best thing for PDP to do in the delegate election, and how do we combat it? And how do we convince Nigerians again? How do we get them to get their voting cards? How do we get them to get prepared to come and vote the right candidate that we hopefully PDP will present? That's what we're going to discuss this morning. Thank you.
All right, well, one of the many things we'll discuss this morning is obviously, as you've already touched on, the clamoring and the calling by members within the southeast of this country for representation. And that's something that's obviously been ringing a lot of bells. And the president, who had this week a tour in the southeast of the country, he has also told leaders and followers or within that geographic zone that it's the court and the court only that will decide the fate of Nnamdi Kanu. As you are well aware, he is still in the middle of his trial there. I do want to get your thoughts on that legal process, but before we do that, we do have a soundbite that we'd like to play beforehand. Hope you can hear it.
This issue of political solution, I have never believed in IPOB method of operation. I disagree with them. I will never agree with them. But we have gotten ourselves to a very terrible and pitiable situation. And some of us were warning that we could get to this situation, and some were playing politics with it. Mr. President, we are at this crossroads. I've been to you and I begged you for a political solution. Surprisingly and graciously, you granted that. And you said that our people could initiate that. And of course, at the forefront by Nnamdi Kanu's lawyer. We've made all the efforts for the Ohanese to kickstart that. It's not for the governor. So I'm saying that Mr. President had already granted a political solution to be initiated. And so we call on President of Ohanese, to stop delaying this and not allow politics to come into it. Let him boldly meet with, our father Mbazulike, the CAN chairman, Traditional Rulers Council, and a few other people, and with the lawyer from Nnamdi Kanu to initiate this.
I have listened carefully to the various appeals from the elders to the traditional leaders regarding a wide range of options. And as I have said previously, this matter remains in the full purview of the courts, where it will be properly educated. My worry is for our hard-working and innocent civilians for whom life is already tough and would like to just go out and earn a decent, honest living. There are many that fit this profile, and the government owes them that obligation to protect their lives and property. I will once again repeat, no one has the right to carry an AK-47 rifle, and anyone seen in any part of the country doing so and is not a law enforcement officer is a threat to our peaceful coexistence and should be treated as such.
Oh, I see. Mr. Metuh, I hope you were able to hear both David Mahi and President Muhammadu Buhari's comments on that matter. If you were to share your thoughts, tell us what you think about what the President had to say about the courts being the only entity to decide the fate of Nnamdi Kanu.
Well, first, before I go to Nnamdi Kanu's the question of Nnamdi Kanu's freedom, I have to state that it is curious, or it is instructive, that the President has finally come out to condemn the people or Nigerians who tend to carry firearms, especially AK-47. If this government had not delayed in making a categorical statement on this issue, maybe we won't be where we are right now on the issue of insecurity. But the government and the President refused to make any categorical statement, especially when we were confronted with the headsmen and other people who had access to all kinds of firearms. Now, on the issue of Nnamdi Kanu, if we believe that about 14 years ago, 13 years ago, that we made a mistake with the Boko Haram, the founder of that movement, or the founder of whatever movement, the way he was handled and the way the issue was handled actually festered insecurity in the Northeast. If we believe that was a mistake, maybe looking back, if there had been consultation, if there had been a meeting with him, if there had been, we would not have had all these problems in the Northeast. If we believe that was a mistake, then we have to change our tactics when it comes to Nnamdi Kanu. Nnamdi Kanu is not just a Nnamdi Kanu. Nnamdi Kanu is almost like a movement in the Southeast. But people, some miscreants have taken opportunity of that to inflict a lot of hardship on the people and try to occupy the territory and introduce mafia-like taxations and occupation like it happened in the old Italian cities in the 30s and the 20s. So the issue is, how do we save the Southeast from coming to become the Northeast of today? There is proper insecurity in the Southeast right now, and we need to dialogue with Nnamdi Kanu as a person because of what he represents and because of the number of people that he controls. I believe that the President should have a rethink and see if he can engage in dialogue and have a political solution. Anything about having it to the courts, I mean, courts can, it could take courts 10 years, 4 years, 5 years to finish a case. And what do? We keep on having this problem of sit at home and the insecurity that we have. No. As a president, he's the leader of the country. It does not matter that Nnamdi Kanu is an Igbo. It does not matter that he's from the Southeast. Yes, what happens there does not affect the whole of the country. But these are the lives of ordinary Nigerians. These are the security of ordinary Nigerians. These are the businesses of ordinary Nigerians. So please, let the president, at least for now, as the father of the nation, let him sit down and dialogue with the whole team and see how we can get a political solution. Any other thing to talk about getting into having a legal solution is almost like is a dismissal of the problems that we're facing right now.
All right, Mr. Metuh, two important things that I noted in what you said there. The error of 13 years ago when the late President Umaru Yar'Adua was the president in handling the Boko Haram issue, and the not making Southeast to become another Northeast. My question to you is that a lot of people will say that part of the problem is not just that there was an error, but also because what was needed to deal with insurgency and terror was diverted, particularly from the office of the National Security Advisor, and that a lot of money was, funneled out of that, and therefore, at the time that PDP government was in power, there was no sufficient funding, to ensure that banditry was effectively dealt with. Will you agree with those who are saying that?
Definitely no. Do you still listen to that stale story? Do you still listen to such? That was a gimmick. That was a contraption by this government when they found out they didn't have any answers to economic situation in this country. They came up with that to handle the opposition. No, that does not exist. That's okay. If you say that in the last 7 years, what has happened to access to ammunition, access to security things or whatever they have to get across? No, that's not the issue. The issue was that a mistake was made in confronting, and don't forget that it was the police that handled that issue, and before the military. The mistake was made in handling the issue of the founder of the Boko Haram then, Yusuf, I think that was his
Yusuf,
name.
yes.
A mistake was made then, and we cannot, a mistake was made then, and we don't want that same mistake to be made now. But talking about insecurity and whatever, I do remember in 2015, after the loss of the election, a very, very prominent person in the security apparatus then in August or so was worried about the disengagement of some of the mercenaries, some of the foreigners that we had that were helping us with security station. And he did predict that things were going to get worse. The refusal of the government, of this government, to continue with the policies of the Jonathan administration, at least on the issue of the security, brought about the present problem that we have right now. The fact that he has not made any significant progress in handling the issue of security in this country. As a matter of fact, we've gone backwards to what it was before Jonathan started tackling it. So the issue of talking about the NSA or whatever happened to the money or whatever, don't forget that between 2009, 2008-7 when Jonathan was there in 2015, we had almost like 3 national security advisors or 2 national security advisors. So it's not a question of that. No, definitely no. You can't make the argument. It's political, and we're talking about the lives of Nigerians. We don't play politics with it.
All right, let's return to the PDP question, and I saw that you were going to break it down for us. 2 things again, cropped up in that. One is the issue of the Southeast, as you said, being the geopolitical zone that ought to be considered first. But then a lot of people will also tell you that the North Central has not had the presidency in a long while. The Northeast, they've also not had presidency. What do you think gives the Southeast an edge over those 2 other zones? And then coming to the candidacy, the possible candidacy of Mr. Peter Obi, are you saying unequivocally that that will be your candidate if you have the option of picking somebody to fly the flag of the PDP come 2023?
Okay, first, the issue of why we're discussing this zoning is because this government happens to be very unpopular and they have not done very well. In the past, if we had a strong, a president that delivered, a presidency that delivered, a party that delivered, they would have just decided or zoned the presidency to a particular zone, and every other Nigerian will have to go to that zone to do that. So the fact that it's open for all Nigerians is actually a testament to the failure of or failings of this government in the expectations of Nigerians in how they have performed. Coming to the issue of the Southeast, why is it that people are talking about the Southeast? We had a civil war many years ago, and to end that civil war, you need to assuage the feelings of the people. You need to douse that, you need to handle that. Since 1999 up to today, nobody from the Southeast, and by extension, the North Central, has been vice president, has been president of this country. But today, we have people from other zones from the South, people from the North that want to be president. But where we are right now is not even an issue of where you're from. It's not an issue of Southeast, it's not an issue of Southwest. It's an issue of how can we have the best candidate to come and rule this country. And that's why I mentioned that Nigerians believe that Peter Obi is one of the best candidates. He's not the only one, but he's one of the best candidates that can be a symbol, that could be a symbol that can transform the affairs of this nation. But having said that, is it possible for us to have him elect to be a candidate? I introduced the concept of a strong aspirant and weak candidate, and the strong weak aspirant and the strong candidate. I explained. A friend of mine that used it said he refused to give me credit for it. But, I mean, that's neither here nor there. The issue is that you can have a strong candidate for the national, a strong aspirant. That is someone who is capable of winning delegate election because he can convince the people by whatever means. But he's a strong candidate because of his own, the coalition that he can form for the delegate election. And he will become a candidate after winning the primaries. But he will be a weak candidate in terms of he cannot be sold across the nation. Then you have people who are weak aspirants because they do not have the capacity of winning the election. They cannot convince the delegates. And it's not about money. It's about comradeship. It's about people. It's about contacts. It's about knowing what to do. For instance, in delegate election, people don't go to run delegate election either as legislators or executive governors or party positions or even presidency. They go about doing as if they're running for a campaign, a national election. No, just focus on the delegates. Forget about the other one, it will come after. So we have people who are weak aspirants, but they're very good candidates. P2B is one of them that will be a good candidate, but we need to help him. That's why I said that if we can have a national consensus. But in the absence of national consensus, what do? We need to bring up somebody to handle the affairs of this country. We need to bring somebody who has the requisite experience. We need to bring up somebody who has done so well in the affairs of what he has done. And we have such people in the PDP. In the PDP, we have a lot of people. In the PDP, we have Pius Anyim, we have Samuel Habunwa, who has done very well at the private sector, I mean at the heads of the federal private. We have the former vice president of Nigeria, who is the longest serving vice president in the history of this country as of today. Then we have Aminu Tambuwal, who had excelled as a legislator, a former speaker. He got to the highest level there. As a governor, he became the chairman of Governors Forum, and today he's running for president. And so what we need is a unifier. What we need is somebody who has made friends across the nation. What we need is someone with the strength, with the capacity, with the humility to understand that he does not have all the answers, but he needs to build a team that can help him to solve the affairs of this country. And we have capable hands in the PDP. So whilst we address the issue of the Southeast, the most important thing to the PDP is winning the election. I'm a party man. It's about winning the election. What do we do? Who do we engage? Who do we help to win the election? And if you do that, it's narrowed down to only two people. But that is a question of the delegate election. I'm not here to campaign, and I'm not here to do that. I'm going to promote the PDP as a party holistically, because no man is God and no man can determine who will win the election. So it's not good to talk down on the other candidate. And that's why I quarrel on the issue of people who come on TV and condemn people that make all kinds of statements about other aspirants. I mean, whether they are doing it on their own or they are being sponsored by other aspirants is very wrong, totally wrong, and it should be stopped. In the past, the PDP had a way of even dealing with such people, having disciplinary measures. In the past, we used to either caution the people or invite them or even expel them from the party. You can't go about and start castigating elders of the party, other presidential aspirants for whatever reasons that you have. No, you don't do that. So for today, I'm only going to speak to you about the capacity, about the competence, about the good attributes of all our aspirants, not necessarily condemning them. But holistically, our delegates know that if we want to win the election, and we need people to govern us and to lead us to the promised land, the only two candidates, two aspirants that we have to look at to go and do that. Those two aspirants, I mean, they can guess. They can look at it. At the appropriate time.
We can guess one, perhaps not the other.
You've mentioned Peter Obi already.
So
who's the other one? Is it Atiku? Is it Gonowike? Who you have not mentioned since you started? Who's the other person?
I mentioned Peter Obi as as somebody who could be a symbol, somebody if we're looking for a national consensus that we can look at. But I said if we're going for the election and we want to win the election, and we really, really want to win an election, not based on sentiment. Well, Peter Obi is one of them. Nigerians really love them. If you go to the north, go to the northwest, go to the southwest, wherever you go on TV, everywhere that you go, and I'm sure it happens to all of you, you always hear the word Peter Obi, Peter Obi, Peter Obi, Peter Obi everywhere. So it's a symbol. So it's one of them. And the other one is from the north. But I will not go into that controversy. I will explain it in due course. In the next 1 week or so, I'll come out to explain why we have an alternative or somebody. Because we're looking at winning the election. We're looking at somebody that has the demography to win the election. We're having somebody who has the, the requisite experience to get people across all divides to support him to win the election, to vote for him and to govern well. When the time comes in the next 1 week or so, we'll come and discuss that.
I mean, I did want to take this opportunity to speak to you on a personal level and ask you about whether or not you had any personal political ambitions as high as the presidency. And then, depending on what your answer is, I wonder what the fact that you've had to deal with allegations or an arraignment by the EFCC concerning a 400 million naira fraud, an alleged 400 million naira fraud, and the going back and forth between you being arraigned or not being arraigned. Can you set the record straight on that? And is that the reason why you wouldn't pursue a presidency, because of this past you have?
No, I've never had elective political ambition. From 1999, never wanted to run for election. I've been pushed to run for House of Reps, Senate, even the governorship of my state, and not to talk about the presidency, but I've never had that. But I do have an ambition. My ambition is to see if PDP wins the election, I'll be one of those that will put myself forward to become the Director General of the National Orientation Agency. I believe that except we have reorientation of the values, we cannot make a headway in this country. So the DG of the National Orientation is very important to help whatever government that is coming in to stabilize, to change their values, to let Nigerians understand the difference between wealth and success. You can be a wealthy man, but you'll not be a successful man. You can be a successful man without being wealthy. We need to tell Nigerians to be content. We need to show Nigerians how to comport, how to conform, and how to handle their affairs. I mean, we are, the values, the moral values, the social values has really, they've really come down in this country. So I want to put myself forward as one of those that will be able to change it. And if you do that, just like Dora Akunyele handled the issue of NAFDAC. If I'm able to do that, I will go home and say I've been able to make contribution, meaningful contribution to my fatherland. I mean, you don't have to be a president, you don't have to be a governor, you don't have to be any elected person. Wherever you find yourself, just serve the people. Now, on the issue of the EFCC, it happened. It's all about politics. When we lost the election, I put myself forward. I was coordinating the affairs of the party, not necessarily because of the statements, and not necessarily because of what we're doing, but we're rebuilding the PDP, and I had engaged in traveling within the country, outside of the country. We had meetings outside the country, in Dubai, in Paris, in Switzerland, everywhere. We're trying, and we had consultants. We're rebuilding the party. I think this government panicked, and they saw that as a threat. And they came up with this issue of 400 million naira. I mean, we're talking about the issue of money that was paid for a national assignment through the Central Bank of Nigeria to a corporate account in a bank, in a financial institution. How can you talk about the issue of money laundering in such an issue? So, but they had Nigerians didn't want to hear anything. Nigerians were, it was like a mob attack. It was like a lynch him. And everybody bought that whole narrative of people were corrupt, monies were done, things were done, and the press listened to it. So it was built out of proportion. It was really, really built out of proportion. But today, we're still waiting for the Supreme Court to give us a date for the no-case submission, because we believe legally, and a lot of lawyers will tell you that actually there is really no case. They had no case. The case should not have been instituted, and we're waiting for the Supreme Court to give us a date for the no-case submission. And we believe that that historic judgment will put paid to the issue of the arraignment for 400 million. But because of the judgment of the Court of Appeal, I'm a free man today. And until the Supreme Court makes a pronouncement on that judgment, which is different for the no-case submission, we cannot be talking about the issue of arraignment or otherwise for a matter that is before a superior court. But we obey all court orders. We obey all court rulings. And if they want to arraign, then let's see what they will say. But I can bet you it's all politics. It's all drama. On that day, they won't have anything to say, and there won't be anything that will happen. But let's not talk about me. I'm an individual. Yes, I have suffered a lot. Yes, I've suffered persecution. Yes, I've suffered untold hardship. But that's an individual. Today, we are talking about the nation. We're talking about the issue of our country. I mean, look at it. Years ago, when I advised the opposition party then, the APC, to be careful about the kind of messages that they give to Nigerians, to be careful about how they spread bitterness, discontent, division in the minds of Nigerians. They do understand that. Look at what we have today. If you go on social media, people believe that the best way to get attention is to insult people.
Mr.
If you look at people, what they believe that...
Just a second, please. I mean, I just have to interrupt you. We need to go on a quick break. Please hold your thoughts. We'll still come back to you, and speak more about Nigerian PDP. But we'll go on a short break now. When we return, Mr. Olisa Metuh will still be here to speak with us. Don't go away. You're welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. And we're still on with Mr. Olisa Metuh, a lawyer, politician, and former National Publicity Secretary of the People's Democratic Party. Welcome back, Mr. Metuh. And we'll allow you to finish on your thoughts earlier, and I would like you to link that to what you expressed earlier about the National Orientation Agency, which to me, it's an important agency, an important declaration from your good self about the area that you think you like to engage with, if PDP returns to power. So please do kindly finish on your thoughts and link it, to the NOA.
Okay, thank you. On the issue of NOA, anyway, let me come back to the issue of NOA later. I was talking about the opposition party then, who now are the ruling party, when they were opposing the Jonathan administration. They were not engaging in policies and programs. They were not talking about the policies and programs. They were rather dishing out insults. I mean, scaring people and bringing taxes, and they taught a lot of Nigerians that for you to win an election, that for people to listen to you and for you to make a mark, you need to engage in divisive statements. You need to engage in insults. You need to engage in bitterness, spewing bitterness. You need to be combative. No. If you have to target on the policies and programs of the ruling party and bring your options or alternatives to that. While you say this is not working, then you say this is why this is not working, and this is an ideal society, this is an ideal situation, and the society will actually gain more from that. Linking it to the NOA, you will see that it's about telling Nigerians, how do you play politics? How do you handle affairs? If you are in office, how do you comport yourself? How do you comport yourself? Would you owe your loyalty to when you are in office? You don't owe your loyalty to an individual. It's not to a president like Magu owned his own to APC and to president. You owe it to a system. You owe it to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And we need to teach people that. We need to teach people in the police, in the military, in offices, in the legislature, in whatever about the country. I mean, for instance, people are engaging in a quest for wealth, and people are looking for it everywhere. But how many cars can you drive at the moment, at a time? How many houses can you live at? What impact at a certain stage? Once you're able to pay the school fees of your children, once you're able to feed yourself and to be comfortable, what else are you looking for? The investment that you leave tomorrow, the people who succeed you might end up, destroying it. And where does it take you to? So we must teach Nigerians about making an impact, making meaningful contributions to national development. Look at simple things like driving a car. If you're driving on the road, people refuse. They don't understand. They don't even understand what the speed lane is. They don't even understand when the light divides. They don't know when you're supposed to overtake, when you're not supposed to overtake. We need a national orientation agency to come down to the level of Nigerians and to teach us how to live and how to have a decent society. That's why I want to how do I say it again? To apply, if we win the election, to become the Director General of National Orientation Agency. It's not about, when I say it, I said it to a couple of presidential aspirants, and they laughed at me. Some of them that came to my house to talk to me about whatever. When I say this is what I want to be, they laughed. Because when you want to talk about what you want from government, they will think that you're talking about the PC, MPA, whatever. For what? So whenever I say, is National Orientation Agency, they laugh at me. And some of them say, why not? They understand that. And I've listened to aspirants. I've listened to Peter, what Peter said. And I do believe, I keep on coming back to Peter because he's a reference point. Senior Peter, actually, that's what I call him. I listened to Senior Peter. He talked about what he would do when he gets into office, how he will combat the corruption in the system, how he will bring down the waste in the system, and how he's going to make sure that there's accountability, there's probity. I listened to Pius Anyim. I listened to what he said about how he would change the system of governance and what he would do to implement a new situation that will save Nigerians a lot of money, that will free us from the minds of the civil servants, and from what they're doing with the budgeting system and everything. I've listened to Samuel Habunwa and what he has said about how he will bring his personal things with from the private sector to the public sector, to the government, to governance. I've listened to Saraki, brilliant man, very brilliant guy, and he's done so well in the private sector, and today he's aspiring, he's been former chairman of Governors Forum, and he wants to be president. I've listened to him and I hear what he has to say. Look at Udom, for instance, the governor of Akwa Ibom. He's done so well with the management of his resources. Look at it, Bomb Air, one of the best. He at least has shown that government can make investments in such industry and make it very and let it work very well. He has proven himself. Look at someone like Wike, what he has done in construction and what he has done in rivers. I'm coming, please. Okay. So let me not lose my thought. Right. I want to talk about Atiku. I want to talk about Tambuwal. I want to talk about Atiku because of what he did. I know that in 2003, the successes of what we had from 2003, why you can say Obasanjo did so well. Don't forget that Atiku brought most of the hands that did that. Don't forget that it was part of that system. And the best government that we have had, besides the issue of the Jonathan administration, was that period. And he contributed so well in doing it. Then I talk about Tambuwal. I talk about a young man.
We have run out of time.
Who has done so well. Listen,
if you can do that in just 2 minutes.
Not to talk. Just in 30 seconds.
But in just 2 minutes.
I want to prove to you why Tambuwal.
If you can do that in 2 minutes, please go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, I want to prove. Okay, the remaining person is Tambuwal. I want to tell you why Tambuwal is one of the best people to lead this country. Tambuwal has the right temperament. Tambuwal is a team player. Aminu Tambuwal has done so well. It's as if he was born to lead and ordained to lead from childhood. From when he came to National Assembly, he became a minority voice, a minority leader. From there, when he came into PDP, he became a deputy chief whip. From then, he became a speaker, and he's the best speaker that we had in the history of this country. I mean, is not arguable at all. He's done so well. He's the defender of democratic rights. And as governor, he has done so well in Sokoto State. And look at what is happening with the PDP. He's chairman of Governors Forum. He does not interfere. He does not interfere in anybody's state. He does not interfere in the affairs of the party. He does not interfere. And he's not in the face of everyone. And he has a listening ear. So if you look at the aspirants, if you look at our candidates, you see that PDP has an array of candidate aspirants who are so well, who are doing so well. What is the best way forward for PDP? We can sit down and have a national consensus. On the failure of that national consensus, let us decide on who is the best candidate that can win an election. Who is it that when we present the opposition party, some members of the APC we say, okay, we can vote for this man. We can vote for him because of what he represents. We can vote for him because we know him, because of his temperament, because of the things that he has done in the past. Do you understand? Because the PDP on his own might not be able to win an election without getting involved.
Allotted for this interview. Thank you very much for joining us.